misfortune on the battlements of Elsinore isn't just a spooky tale, it's the unraveling of an entire kingdom and the beginning of one of literature's most profound psychological dramas. We are exploring the first few acts of William Shakespeare's Hamlet, specifically the standard ebooks edition compiled by Emma Sweeney, Jeremy Hilton, and Open Source Shakespeare. And it starts with a deeply unsettling mystery.
That's right, Sophie. The play opens with guards on watch, Bernardo and Francisco, soon joined by Marcellus and Horatio. They've witnessed a specter, a dreaded sight, twice before. Horatio, a scholar, is initially skeptical, dismissing it as but our fantasy. But then the ghost appears again, looking exactly like the late King Hamlet.
And this isn't just any ghost. It's wearing the armor the king wore when he fought the ambitious Fortinbras of Norway. Horatio is terrified, saying, quote, "Most like it harrows me with fear and wonder," end quote. The tension builds as they realize this is far more than a simple haunting.
Indeed, Horatio immediately senses a deeper political tremor. He believes this apparition bodes some strange eruption to our state. He then explains the backstory. King Hamlet killed the elder Fortinbras in combat, claiming his lands. Now, young Fortinbras, described as having unimproved metal hot and full, is gathering a list of lawless resolutes to recover those lands. This military buildup is why Denmark is under such strict watch.
So, the supernatural and the political are intertwined from the very first scene. It's not just a personal haunting, it's a national omen. And what's particularly striking is Horatio's historical parallel, citing omens in Rome before Caesar's death, like graves stood tenantless and the sheeted dead did squeak and gibber in the Roman streets. He's hinting at cataclysm.
Precisely. The ghost appears again, and Horatio attempts to speak to it, demanding to know if it holds any good thing to be done or is privy to thy country's fate. But it vanishes at the cockcrow. This sets up the critical decision to inform young Hamlet, the late king's son, believing the spirit, dumb to us, will speak to him.
Fast forward and we meet the new court. King Claudius, Hamlet's uncle, has hastily married Gertrude, Hamlet's mother. Claudius quickly addresses the Fortinbras threat, dispatching envoys to Norway. But his speech also reveals a man trying to project an image of control and measured grief, balancing mirth in funeral and with dirge in marriage.
And Hamlet is visibly struggling with this new reality. He makes his famous aside, quote, "a little more than kin and less than kind," end quote, indicating his disdain for Claudius. Both Claudius and Gertrude tried to persuade Hamlet to cast off his knighted color and stop mourning his father, but Hamlet's grief is profound and genuine, stating, quote, "I know not scenes. 'Tis not alone my inky cloak, good mother, nor customary suits of solemn black."
He pushes back against the idea that his grief is merely an outward show. He says, quote, "I have that within which passeth show, these but the trappings and the suits of woe," end quote. This immediately establishes Hamlet as someone who feels deeply and sees through appearances, a contrast to the superficiality he perceives around him.
His first soliloquy following this scene truly lays bare his despair. He wishes his too solid flesh would melt and laments the world as an unweeded garden. The speed of his mother's remarriage to his uncle, less than 2 months after his father's death, horrifies him. He feels betrayed, calling his mother, quote, "a beast that wants discourse of reason," end quote, for marrying his uncle, whom he compares to a satyr next his father's Hyperion. This is the genesis of his deep cynicism.
The arrival of Horatio, Marcellus, and Bernardo then brings the news of the ghost. Hamlet is immediately struck, and his questions are piercing, demanding details about the ghost's appearance. He suspects foul play and promises to join them on watch, urging them to keep silent about what they've seen.
The ghost does appear to Hamlet, and in a truly pivotal moment reveals the truth. He was murdered by Claudius, who poured poison into his ear while he slept. The ghost calls Claudius an incestuous, that adulterate beast, and describes the horrific effect of the poison. It commands Hamlet to revenge his foul and most unnatural murder, but also warns him not to taint thy mind, nor let thy soul contrive against thy mother aught, leaving Gertrude to heaven's judgment.
This revelation completely shatters Hamlet's world. His immediate reaction is an oath to remember the ghost's words and to erase everything else from his memory. He realizes the smiling villainy of his uncle. This sets him on his tragic path, burdened with a mission he did not seek.
And following this, he makes his companion swear an oath of secrecy on his sword, even as the ghost's voice from beneath emphasizes swear. Hamlet then tells them he may put an antic disposition on, meaning he intends to feign madness. This is a crucial strategic decision, allowing him to observe and act covertly, though it also isolates him further.
This feigned madness becomes a central theme. We see it in Act 2 with Ophelia, where she describes Hamlet's disheveled, wild appearance, leading her father Polonius to believe Hamlet's madness stems from rejected love. Polonius, ever the schemer, sends his servant Reynaldo to subtly spy on Laertes in France, instructing him to spread minor slanders to elicit the truth. The text explicitly mentions Reynaldo should inquire about what danskers are in Paris and inquire about Hamlet's expenses and company.
Polonius's methods highlight his manipulative nature. He also famously advises Laertes with a series of precepts, including, quote, "To thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man," end quote. It's ironic coming from a man who constantly resorts to deception and spying. He also tells Laertes that Hamlet's will is not his own, for he himself is subject to his birth, because his choice depends on the safety of the state.
Absolutely. Polonius then instructs Ophelia to reject Hamlet's advances, believing her coldness drove Hamlet to distraction. He then convinces the king and queen that this love madness is the cause of Hamlet's behavior, overlooking the obvious tension of the hasty marriage and the late king's death. We also see Claudius's reaction to the ambassadors. He sends Cornelius and Voltimand to Norway to suppress young Fortinbras's levies, noting that old Norway is impotent and bedrid and cannot hear of his nephew's purpose.
The king and queen, concerned about Hamlet's transformation, summon Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, Hamlet's childhood friends, to spy on him and discover the cause of his melancholy. Hamlet quickly sees through their flimsy pretense. He delivers his powerful, "What a piece of work is a man" speech, lamenting that man delights not me, no nor woman neither, hinting at his disillusionment with humanity, and especially his mother. He even notes that R&G were sent for, forcing them to confess their mission.
His cynicism is palpable. When the players arrive, he sees an opportunity. His soliloquy, quote, "Oh, what a rogue and peasant slave am I," end quote, criticizes his own inaction, comparing himself to the actor who can weep for Hecuba, a fictional character, while he, with real cause for grief and revenge, does nothing. He devises the play, The Mousetrap, to, quote, "catch the conscience of the king," end quote.
This is a brilliant strategy, using art to reveal truth. Hamlet's instructions on the players on acting are also legendary, advising them to hold, as it were, the mirror up to nature, advocating for a natural, temperate style of performance. He specifically criticizes overacting, saying he'd rather the town crier speak his lines than a robustious periwig-pated fellow tear a passion to tatters.
He then confides in Horatio, asking him to observe Claudius closely during the play. This trust in Horatio is a stark contrast to his treatment of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, whom he sees as tools of the king, comparing them to sponges.
During the play, the dumb show, and then the actual play within a play, which mirrors King Hamlet's murder, cause Claudius to rise abruptly and leave, confirming his guilt to Hamlet and Horatio. This is a moment of triumph for Hamlet, but also a point of no return. Hamlet then mockingly asks if the queen liked the play, noting that the lady doth protest too much, methinks, and declaring the play is called The Mousetrap.
The king's reaction proves everything. But then Hamlet finds Claudius praying. He contemplates killing him, but hesitates, reasoning that if he kills Claudius during prayer, Claudius's soul would go to heaven, not hell, which would not be true revenge. He wants to catch him, quote, at gaming, swearing, or about some act that has no relish of salvation in't, end quote.
This delay is critical. Unbeknownst to Hamlet, Claudius's prayer is not sincere. He states, quote, "My words fly up, my thoughts remain below. Words without thoughts never to heaven go," end quote. So Hamlet misses his perfect opportunity. This leads directly to the confrontation with Gertrude, where Hamlet, hearing a noise behind the arras, impetuously stabs through it, killing Polonius, whom he mistook for the king.
This rash act changes everything. It confirms his supposed madness for many and ignites Laertes' quest for revenge. In his rage at Gertrude, Hamlet shows her two portraits, comparing his father to Hyperion and Claudius to a mildewed ear, chastising her for her hasty, incestuous marriage. The ghost reappears, unseen by Gertrude, reminding Hamlet to whet thy almost blunted purpose and to comfort his mother. Gertrude, seeing only Hamlet speaking to empty air, believes he is truly mad.
Hamlet tries to make her see the truth of her actions, urging her to confess to heaven and avoid Claudius's bed. He then reveals he knows he's being sent to England and trusts Rosencrantz and Guildenstern as little as adders fanged, hinting he has plans for them. The act ends with Hamlet dragging Polonius's body away, lamenting, quote, "The time is out of joint. O cursed spite, that ever I was born to set it right," end quote. This sets the stage for the accelerating tragedy, where every action seems to spiral into further chaos.
The text indicates that Hamlet cleverly thwarts the execution plot in England by substituting the names of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern for his own in the sealed letter. The source also notes that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are not near my conscience. Their defeat does by their own insinuation grow.
Hamlet's escape from the ship and return to Denmark is facilitated by pirates. Meanwhile, Ophelia, driven mad by her father's death and Hamlet's rejection, sings cryptic songs and distributes imaginary flowers, showcasing her profound mental distress. Her subsequent death by drowning is reported by Gertrude in a hauntingly poetic monologue. Gertrude recounts how Ophelia wore coronet weeds and fell into the brook after an envious sliver broke.
This is truly devastating. And Laertes, upon returning to Denmark and finding his father dead and his sister mad, is consumed by a desire for revenge. Claudius, ever manipulative, capitalizes on this, skillfully directing Laertes' anger towards Hamlet and devising a treacherous plan for a duel. Claudius confirms he didn't pursue Hamlet publicly because the people love him so much they would dip all his faults in their affection.
The duel is set up with a poisoned foil for Laertes and a poisoned drink for Hamlet, all orchestrated by Claudius. Laertes agrees to use a sword unbaited, and has also acquired an unction of a mountebank, so mortal that, but dip a knife in it, where it draws blood, no cataplasm so rare can save the thing from death. Before this, in the gravedigger scene, Hamlet confronts mortality, holding Yorick's skull and reflecting, quote, "Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him, Horatio, a fellow of infinite jest, of most excellent fancy," end quote, a poignant meditation on life's brevity and the universal equalizer of death.
At Ophelia's funeral, Hamlet and Laertes clash over who loved her more, foreshadowing their fatal duel. Hamlet leaps into the grave, prompting Laertes to exclaim, "The devil take thy soul!"
Then, in the climatic scene, the fencing match begins. Gertrude inadvertently drinks the poisoned wine intended for Hamlet and dies, exclaiming, the drink, I am poisoned." Laertes wounds Hamlet with the poisoned rapier, but in a struggle, the foils are exchanged, and Hamlet wounds Laertes with his own poisoned weapon. As he dies, Laertes confesses the king's plot. Enraged, Hamlet stabs Claudius with the poisoned foil and forces him to drink the remaining poisoned wine. With his dying breath, Hamlet appoints Fortinbras as his successor, trusting Horatio to tell his story truly. Horatio, loyal to the end, wants to die with Hamlet, but is persuaded to live and bear witness to these carnal, bloody, and unnatural acts. Fortinbras arrives to claim the throne and restore order.
The play truly showcases the corrupting influence of power, the complexities of grief, and the struggle for moral action in a world filled with deceit. This was William Shakespeare's Hamlet, presented through the standard e-books edition.
It leaves us with a profound understanding of human nature, justice, and the consequences of inaction and revenge.
If you found our discussion of Hamlet thought-provoking, consider sharing this episode with a friend.